Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. We're at the farm this morning, getting ready to plant more Christmas trees. We've got 500 Nordmans that we're putting in the ground. We plan to plant more than that, but this is one of those situations where on late notice, we're only able to get a crew for so many trees and pick up so many trees. We actually could have got a few more trees. But today, I'm going to take you through what we're doing here on November 5th, planting. We like to do fall planting. I have other videos on that. This is not going to be as much of a teaching video. I mean, we will do the basics of what we're doing, but today is going to be more about just an update on what we're doing, why we're planting in the fall, and then there's going to be a lot more thoughts. Barry and I are out here. We have a crew planting the trees. We're going to be cleaning up our trees, getting them ready for harvest, making them look a little bit nicer, making sure everything else is ready to go. This video is probably going to have some thoughts on just Christmas tree farming in general, or things that happened this year. So you're going to see some planting, and you're just going to see some thoughts on how things are going this year, and the reality of Christmas tree farming, why we had to make some changes in the last 2 days of what our plan was today. But it's all going to work out. So thanks for joining us. So the first thing to talk about on having to change your plan, we, as I mentioned, love to plant in the fall now. We think that gives the roots a chance to get established before the next year's growth, and they survive better, and our experience has shown us that. We wanted to plant earlier. If we could get moisture in the ground, we'd like to plant earlier in October, but today is November 5th, but it was so dry. We had the longest, driest summer ever, and there just was no moisture in the ground, so we couldn't plant in October, so we couldn't get the trees in the ground and expect them to keep growing and get that nice October, early November root growth. So, but we still, if we get them in the ground, we feel that the soil gets down tight around the roots better throughout the winter, and there will be some root growth, so they'll do better off. So we still want to plant in the fall if we can, even though we didn't do it as early as we would have liked. The other thing is, we were planning to do noble fir plugs. We were going to get those out here, and I actually called my supplier, and they were ordered, and yeah, we have those available, whatnot. Just let me know when you wanted. Well, I had to confirm with my crew that they could be out here, confirm with my business partner everything was going to work, and then I didn't call them soon enough, and so then when I let them know that we were coming to get the trees yesterday, that they had just sprayed in their greenhouses where they grow the plugs, and I don't even know what they sprayed on it, to be honest, but they had to spray something that for 48 hours nobody else was supposed to go back in there. And so they said, we can't pull your noble plugs out for us. And so they said, but we do have some bare root Nordmans, so you want to take those instead, because we had some Nordmans on order. So we went ahead and said, well, we got a crew coming, planning to plant 500 trees. We'll take the 500 Nordmans and get those in the ground right now. Hopefully we'll get our noble plugs. If I can get this crew back next week, we'll get the noble plugs in the ground. And then also, I'm going to show you some Nordmans, the ones that we have here, and I'm going to try some Nordmans from another supplier as well. That these are 3-0s, so they haven't been transplanted in the roots cut, whereas I'm going to get some 2-2s, where after 2 years of growth, they pull them out, cut the roots to 9 inches, and replant them. And then instead of getting the longer roots, they get more of a mop that's easier to plant, but yet still has more root structure. So we're going to get our hands on some of those and plant those, and we're going to compare the survival rate this next year of the two different kinds. So those are things that are happening. You know, it doesn't always go exactly as planned, but we just scrambled around and made this work, and we're going to get 500 trees in the ground. And hopefully, if we don't get the 2,000 trees that we plan to in the ground this fall, then we can do some spring planting as well. All right, so we've got our 500 Nordmans that we're going to plant today. We do want to plant some more this fall or next spring, but this is what we had. These are 3-0s. So they've been in the ground outside for 3 years. We'll show you what they're going to look like. So this is fairly typical of the 3-0s. I actually had more reserved than this, but I ran into a friend at church whose dad actually runs a nursery, and they talk about how the root system has a lot more significant roots. These are not bad. These look pretty good, but they actually have more of what you would call a mop, significant root system. And he said that theirs are 2 years in greenhouse, 2 years in the greenhouse and then 2 years out in the field, and they actually dig them up after 2 years and cut the roots to the 8-9 inch length, and then they replant them wider and they grow them 2 more years. And because of the cutting, they don't have the longer roots that run down, they have more roots that spread out, and they'll always cut the roots to 9 inches, which is industry standard. And so by doing that once, that creates a wider system instead of a longer system.
Here and just wherever we see where we lost a tree again, we're going to plug those in.
All right.
And I was thinking, Rob, on some of our larger trees, should we go ahead and plug one right next to it?
I was considering the same thing, but with only 500 trees, do we need to do that yet, or do we do that with our next planting? Because there's going to be 500 normal holes.
You think we'll have 500 out there?
We had a lot die this last year.
Well, let's do that then. Let's just where we lost our small ones, and then if we need to, we might come back and put some next to the bigger trees.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. Cool.
So Moy, you've planted for us several years now, and are you the owner now of RK Reforestation, or how's that work?
Yes, like family business right now.
Yeah.
Not the owner, but something like that.
Something like that. Moy worked for a crew that planted for a lot for the county, and that's how we got connected with him. He plants a lot of trees down over our hillside by the river, and his boss was resigning, and he's kind of the boss now. Is that accurate or not really?
Something like that.
Something like that. If you've watched our videos, you've seen Moy before. He does a good job.
What do you think?
Put another one in there.
All right.
You can see we still have some weeds that came back. This is a particularly bad spot because it's got some blackberries. Moy had to clear out a little bit. And notice his technique. He likes to almost slap the tree down in there. That really gets the roots to go down in the bottom, and then stomps it in good.
Ready.
Okay, so while the crew is planting, Barry and I are going to go out and work in the field, and this is not a pruning or shearing time of year, but it's a good time to clean up some stuff. Harvest is going to be here later this month, and it's a good time to walk through. Sometimes when you're doing hundreds or thousands of trees shearing in the summer, you go through and you get tired and you miss something, or you just approach it at a different angle. So we're going to be cleaning up things, just some simple things like this one still has 3 leaders on it. Need to get rid of that. Then just the dead branches when you did shear that are sitting on the tree, clean those out. And then you get some of these sections right here where it's a little extra thick, so we'll be thinning out some and just trying to make the tree just to look a little bit more presentable. We won't be taking a full shearing approach to it, but just a little bit of cleanup, making things look a little nicer today. So we have a section of trees right here. This is what Barry was talking about. We were told these were Fraser. They're not a very nice seed source if they are. But these trees have been here a long time. And the deer like them. They're not grown in full. They're not very valuable. But we're considering what are we going to do? Sell these cheap. There are some decent ones, but for the most part they're pretty straggly, And we're just going to get these out of here. They've been here a lot longer than their size would indicate. And so we need to get these trees out of here and get something that will grow much more rapid and produce a better tree. So these things, we're probably going to just mark them really cheap. There's not going to be very many cheap trees on our farm this year. At least $100 for every Noble or Nordman. But these trees are going to go, we're going to mark them down and just see if somebody wants a bargain price tree. Get these out of here and use this land for a better tree. You can see where we've been mostly harvested out and our inventory is really low. So these are the trees that have been left behind. They've had problems people didn't like. So we've done a lot of shearing and shaping and fertilizing, trying to get these to where they'll be good enough to go into someone's home. Some of these are looking really good again. These are grand firs that we're standing in right now. Some of them just aren't healthy, like this one. The coloring on it just has too much brown. We're probably just going to cull this out, cut her down, and turn her loose. And then some of them just aren't getting the shape. Some of these over here, too close to the trees over here, not getting that sunlight on that side, so that side doesn't grow in as thick. So what you're proposing here is we're done growing Dougs. We've had enough. We don't grow that many anyway. Putting all this into Nobles, so we'll have Nobles run right to our Grands. Nordmans are on that side, mostly Nobles this side, and focus on those two.
I believe.
Well,
that,
Nobles, Nordmans, and Grands. Those three.
The Doug fir. I mean, there are customers that come and choose a Doug fir, but that little piece of land is pretty valuable, you know, for us. And a Nordman or a Noble will get us more money in a couple of years versus shorter term for a Doug fir, of course. But yeah, I think that's a good idea for our future. Good plan.
So this is, besides getting trees ready to sell this year, trying to correct. This has a double leader, one coming off sideways, although it's a taller one more straight up. We're going to leave the shorter one that's straight up and just let it, when spring comes around next year, have a straight growth. There we go.
Very good.
Also on days like today, sometimes we'll do a little bit of the handle work. This tree is not tall enough to do a full foot handle right now, but if we take off a few of the lower branches right now, the trunk will grow up thinner and the tree will be lighter, and then in another couple years we'll come back, or another year or two, when it's about 4 feet tall and get the full handle on it. We don't want to cut off more than a third of the tree at a time, but again, that's not enough handle for permanent. But just taking off a few of the basal pruning branches, we call it cutting handles. We're not doing it all in one day, but just here and there when we're around makes the job easier. Okay, so Barry and I are trying to figure out, I may have mentioned earlier, we have 500 Nordmans that we're planting today. We have access to another 1,000 Nordman if we want. We don't have that much space. We also have access to 1,000 Noble fir plugs with which a nice seed source. So we're going to see if we can get these guys, when they're done planting today, if they'll come back next weekend or soon after, because again, we prefer the fall planting. But we're just trying to figure out how much space we have. So we've just been discussing a plan. So I forget, we think if they'll come, do we want 1,000 trees and try to get Nordmans and Nobles, or do we need to count and figure out?
I think we need to walk through the field and determine that. But to me, it's looking more like we would do the Nobles.
Yeah.
We're trying to divide our farm, mostly Nobles on this side, Nobles and Grand Firs, and Nordmans on the other side. And it's looking like we have some space where we can definitely put some Nobles in, and we're going to replace some of the Fraser fir with Nobles. And
so we have a few rows of Frasers that I think I probably showed you on the video that we're not proud of, and we want to get rid of. How long have those been there?
Too long.
They've probably over 10 years old, I would say.
Yes.
And
yeah.
Most of them are shorter than me still. Well, not most, but several of them are still shorter than me. So they're too slow growing. They're not good looking. So we're going to discount those, get those out of here. That's going to become Nobles. a more valuable tree. Our Dougs, we may be done with Dougs and put more nobles in there, a more valuable tree, and we've considered just buying some wholesale Dougs for the few people that come out to get Doug firs and having them available. So this may not, again, a lot of this is contingent on getting a crew because Barry and I are getting too old to do all the planting. So if these guys are willing to come back next weekend, we'll probably be doing the plug nobles, which will be ready and available for us. In this section of the trees, you can see that we had the weeds killed really well, but we had a lot of rain and late into the summer this spring before it went really dry, and it kind of washed our soil sterilant out, and we don't have thick sod, but you can see we have a fair number of weeds that have come back up this year we need to take care of. And then with the super dry towards the end of the summer, we have usually, once they get to 2-3 feet tall, we don't lose too many trees. But you can see there's a fair amount in this section that didn't make it. You might notice that Moy's using a spade. Moy and his crew are using a spade or a shovel in the background here. And in previous videos we talked about how much we like to use an auger because it kind of tills up the ground as well. And we were wanting to do an auger again, but again, things don't always go as planned. One, our auger isn't working. We would have had to have gone and borrowed another auger and short notice or rented another one. So due to the fall planting, which we think is more important than the auger use, we're just going to get these in the ground with a spade because the crew is available today. So I do like the auger, but this is just what worked for today. This time of year is got to get the sticks off too, that we tied these on when we were shearing. So the tree is hardened enough that they should stay straight. Probably shouldn't use my pruners on these wires, but it's quick. We can pull these off now and the tree is still gonna stay straight. I'm getting a false leader up here on this one.
All has been for me. I mean, I honestly, between the North Fork and the Nacelle and the Klickitat, I had one day I didn't catch a fish.
Really?
All the trips I took until that Siletz trip.
You were killing it then.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes you get a super ugly tree like this one. Well, not super ugly, it's generally got a good shape, but there's areas of certain trees, you tie them up and then it just grows a burly knob and it's really thick and it's just never going to have a good shape. So we're going to take this tree like this, and there's another one right over here. You can't see it very well, but it's got different shapes. It's not going to grow up straight. It's been there a long time. That we're going to just do some flagging on these trees that are, we haven't set an exact price, but Barry and I have talked about this has got to go. It's got a huge stump. I'll show you that here in just a second. It's been here for a long time and it's got to get out of here. And so we're either going to cut it down and throw it on a fire, or we can sell it cheap and someone else will take it. So we're going to flag some of these trees that we want culled out, and a lot of people aren't going to want to pay $100 for a number one this year. So you know, maybe we'll do a $50 tree or less, who knows. We haven't decided on that price yet, but we're going to mark a lot of trees that would have some value to someone, but they certainly aren't number ones, and sell them cheaper. Normally we just sell every noble $100, or we have one price any size and they choose it. If they like it, they keep it, but we're going to mark a few at discount just because we got to get them off the farm. Here's what I was talking about on this tree that we want to cull out. That trunk will not fit in a standard Christmas tree stand because it's been here so long, it's so thick. Maybe if we cut it up a little bit further it'll fit in the stand, but just time for this thing to go. Okay, so the crew, we've already talked to them. They're willing to come back next Saturday and get more of our trees in. So we'll have all the trees in planted in the fall, which we really want. But we were just looking at how many trees they have, and we need to decide. So you're just going to see the discussion here. It looks like the Nordman's section of the field is going to be almost completely full.
Yeah.
We have two options: get no more Nordmans, or we plant some in that small section of Nordman's over there. I wanted to get some of the Nordmans from the other nursery, but if we're only going to put 200 in the ground, we don't want to drive to Salem and Hood River
No.
to get seedlings. So if we only plant a few more Nordmans, if we get them all at Brooks, both the nobles, the 500 nobles that we want, and the Nordmans, we could pick up Nordmans there.
Yes,
you know,
yeah.
because they have them on reserve for us, they're ready to go. You drive to one spot. It wasn't quite necessarily the tree that we wanted.
Yeah.
But
You know, you were really interested in getting those Nordmans though that have the different root, you know, the root scenario that
Yeah.
you're talking about. I'm retired. I can make a trip
is
to Hood River. Lori and I love Hood River. It's
okay,
gorgeous.
I wasn't going to put that on
Yeah,
you,
no,
but I can't
goodness
make it.
sakes,
But if
yeah.
you can make it,
Yeah,
then
I think we lean toward doing that. And you wanted to see what the difference would look like. And
I really do.
be a real good comparison.
And it would be very distinct because the Nordmans over here would be from one supplier, the Nordmans planted over there would be from another, and
Yeah.
we'd have a pretty clear distinction of if one did better than the other.
I think
what it
we
was.
need to do that. I think we need to take a look at that. We've had a lot of difficulties with some of the bare root Nordmans we've been getting, so it'd be nice to try something different. And that'd be a great, you know, planted the same fall, nearly the same time. All the factors would be
Yeah.
equal. So, and then the 500 nobles for
Yeah.
sure.
500 nobles, and then we'll before they leave, we'll make a count, or before I leave, we'll make a count how many Nordmans we want. So I'm guessing we're going to be about 700 total trees
Yep.
again next weekend.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good.
So Barry was just saying, because he's got time, because he's retired, the fortunate soul, he's been fishing a whole lot. So.
Yes.
And killing it. So that's good. But he's like, if we can't get the Nordmans, the 200 Nordmans, I could plant those at my leisure and get those in, and the crew would do the nobles. But one of the situations that we would have there is these are not cold stored ones that can stay in the bags a little bit longer. When you get them in the fall, the nursery suppliers are like, we haven't had our 400 hours of 40 degrees or less, and then we cut them, bag them, and they're ready to go in the freezer, and then you can keep them cold and they last longer. Both of our suppliers say if you're going to take bare root in the fall, you need to get them home, and get them in the ground. So we don't want to wait nearly as long with these. You know, we picked these up yesterday, the one that we were planting today, and they're all going to be in the ground just a little after noon today, and then so we'll probably pick up trees again next Friday and have them in the ground by Saturday. So if you get fall trees, fall bare root, you need to get them in the ground.
Good to know. Excellent. Didn't know that.
So the crew is just pulling out. We're a little bit after noon. They started about 8:30. We got 500 trees in the ground. I gave them $300 to split amongst them. Might have been a little overpriced if you go by the hour, but they know what they're doing. They get in here, they get it done quick, and we can go home, and my back is saved because I'm not planting all of them. Well, we really caught a break in the weather today after torrential rain yesterday. It really has only rained very lightly for a little bit of time today, so we both have moisture in the ground, a little bit of moisture in the air, which are good for the trees, but we weren't getting soaked out here. So I didn't even put my rain gear on. The planting crew did, but at one point in time, but it's back off. And so anyway, there's a recap of what was going on today at the farm. Thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead and East Fork Christmas Tree Farms, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching and cleaning horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. Hope to see you again soon. Be blessed, everyone.